What's up, y'all? Welcome back to another edition of the Cajun Libertarian Live. I am your host, the Cajun Libertarian, and very excited to have you back. It's going to be an awesome time. I had a great show with Larry on Wednesday. These things are just getting better. We do have some really big news coming from Eskimo Libertarian and myself, and some more news as soon as I can go ahead and tell you this. I am signed up for Anchor, and so I've got a way that I've got somebody that's putting everything into an audio file for me, and they are going to put that onto Anchor, and that will be shot out to everywhere, basically where you can get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, all that stuff. And so I'll drop that link to y'all as soon as I can. But to the more fun and important things, as we always say, with that being said, let's bring them on. Sasha,
Hey,
what's up, dude?
not too much. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
Great. I spent the morning at City Hall working on some stuff and sort of got to relax for a little bit. Took off early on Friday.
Nice. And so, man, you look nice.
Thank you.
Excuse me. Yeah, you dressed up in the suit and tie. Is that what you wear for work every day?
Yeah, when I got elected, I realized I needed to get a little more formal, and I picked up a lot of weight during quarantine. So I started running out and buying new stuff and getting a little more dressy for work. So
Nice. Yeah. A lot of people gained weight during the quarantine.
yeah, I had it rough because my roommate went to culinary school, and so anything I ever wanted to eat, I could just say, "Hey, Troy, why don't you make beef Wellington tonight?" And he'd say, "Sure, let's do that." And
That's great.
we'd have it. Yeah, it was great, but it wasn't great for my waist.
Right. That's all right. That's a great experience there to be able to eat like a king like that with a roommate
yeah.
being able to prepare something for you.
Oh yeah.
That's awesome. What's the weather up there like right now?
It is 70 degrees right now. It was about 80 middle of the day, so it's finally warming up. It's been too cold for too long up here.
Yeah. I don't do the cold at all. Hate it. Hard pass.
Yeah. I've lived up here my whole life, and I could tell you stories when I was younger. We had 3 days off of school once because it was -30 and the school buses wouldn't start.
Yeah, I guess they would.
Yeah.
Negative. Was that the wind chill? Or was that
Yeah,
was
that was the wind chill. It was like -10 actual temp, but man, I've never felt anything like that in my life.
I've been through that before. It was -27 with the wind chill at one point. That was the coldest I've ever been in my life.
Oh yeah, anytime it gets down there, I'm stay in the house, put a blanket on, make some hot cocoa, and watch TV for the day. I get nothing done.
Right? Where is DeKalb? And then we talked about this. Like, we have a DeKalb right by me. We call it DeKalb, and you call it DeKalb. And so everywhere's different. You were talking about the Georgia thing. I thought that was hilarious. But where exactly are you at in Pennsylvania, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm in Illinois, but
Illinois. Sorry.
You're good.
We just talked about this.
Yeah. DeKalb is about 65 miles west of Chicago, and 90 miles east of Davenport. So we're sort of in the middle of the state in the northern half.
Okay. I was stationed in Waukegan.
Oh, Great Mistakes?
Yep. Great Mistakes. You got it. Nailed it.
Oh, yeah. I know a lot of people that went through there when they left high school.
Yep. Waukegan. Great Mistakes. Yep. Stayed there. I did my boot camp and a school there, my core training. Yep. So I was there for a while.
Love Winter Chicago. Or summer?
Spring and then fall. That's when I left.
Not that bad.
I was lucky. No, yeah. I was very lucky. Like 2 or 3 weeks after I left, there was tons of snow that dumped, and I was, oh man, I missed it. I'd never been through snow at that point, but then once now I've been through it. No, I don't think. No, you can keep the snow. Keep it up there where you're at.
I love the snow once a year. The first one of the year, I'm like, this is great. It's so pretty. And then I get up the next morning and I got to start shoveling, and I hate it for the rest of the year.
Right. Yep. And so, I mean, how hard was all that? I mean, campaigning and running for office, and not just winning, but all the things that come with the campaign, and it's just such an intense situation.
Yeah.
Did you have to go through any of that door to door in the winter, and
Oh,
just talk
oh
about
yeah.
that whole experience?
So I ran twice. Last year, I ran for DeKalb County Board in the November election, and I got wrecked, 24% of the vote, which was fine because the first race really let me introduce myself to the community, start meeting people who are leaders and activists, and then as soon as that race was over, rather than taking a break like a normal person, I immediately pulled petitions and started petitioning to get on the ballot
Yeah.
for the April municipal election. So the only really cold part of it was that petitioning window from mid-November to December 19th when I turned in my petitions. That was freezing. But we didn't start really knocking doors until about March. And at that point, it was like 45, 50 most days. So for us, that ain't bad.
Right. Yeah. I don't like that still, but if it that's about our average here in the South, like in the deep South where I'm at,
Right.
deep South. Our average winters at somewhere between 40 and 50.
Oh, I would love that so much. It stayed
It gets a little
about
cold.
10, 15 for most of our winter, so
Mm-mm.
I would have
Mm-mm.
loved 30 or 40, something like
Yeah,
that. And
we
I,
had some
I
cold
usually
snaps.
I usually will take a little vacation right in that like December, January. I'll go, nope, it's too cold. I'm done, and just hop on the flight somewhere south until it's warm
Nice.
enough.
Mhm.
So this year I
Yeah,
went down to St. Thomas with some friends and hung out on the island for a few days and warmed back up.
yeah. That's always awesome.
Yeah.
And so, like what walk us through a little bit, not all of it obviously, but some of the stuff that you found when you wrapped up and realized that you won this thing. What were some of the key elements to you winning?
Allying with and working on issues where we agreed with people who didn't necessarily agree with my overall political persuasion. I worked with a couple of school board candidates who were two Democrats and an anarcho communist. And it was really, really
Ooh,
incredible. They were all so welcoming and so nice because my message
nice.
was one that they agreed with. I talked about transparency. I talked about the need for the city to actually work for all of the people in the city. And I talked about the need to move to ranked choice voting. And they
Nice.
respected that message. They agreed with it. And we all canvassed together. The four candidates and all of our various volunteers would meet every Saturday and every Sunday. And we'd take these bags of literature like these with lit for all the school board candidates, myself, and information about where early voting was. And we'd hang them on doors, we'd knock people's doors, we'd have good conversations. And it worked. Two of the three school board candidates won, and I won.
Wow, that's awesome. So y'all really just killed it.
Yeah, things went really, really well for our slate. And I think that was something that was really interesting in Illinois. We had three candidates here that worked sort of in slates. I ran here in DeKalb with some lefties that were also going for school board. And then in Avon Township, a woman named Crystal Larson ran with a progressive slate of candidates. She won. And then downstate, we had a candidate that ran with a right-wing slate, and he lost. It was really interesting to see that. I think that
Right.
for a long time, libertarians have sort of fallen into this trap of thinking we have more in common with the right than the left, when in reality, we have things in common with everybody. We have issues that matter to us that matter to almost anybody, no matter where they are on the political compass. And so when we
Exactly.
get over ourselves and cooperate with people that we don't necessarily agree with all the time, we can be really successful. I've met people who, the way I like to put it is they hate the left more than they love liberty. And if that's where you're at, you're not going to be successful.
Yeah, and we talked about a little of this prior to the show when I asked you. I said, what gets your fire going? What turns your gears? I guess, and
Uh,
one of it was mentioning how you thought that the party was too hard on the left leaning libertarians. Is that am I
Yeah,
saying that right?
yeah, definitely.
Okay, okay.
Um, there are a lot of left ideologies that fall under the spectrum of libertarianism. You've got libsocs and mutualists and ancoms and ansins and all of these different ideologies that are 100% libertarian. They may not be the exact libertarian future that you or I are interested in, but the reality is that by the point where we're fighting over which kind of anarchism we're going to be at, we've already kind of won. So look at it like a train. We might not be all headed for the same stop, but we're all headed for the same direction, and we need to get over ourselves, get on the train, and work together.
Yeah, I'm so glad you said that because that's really been the theme of everything that I do. Is man, we got to work on our character. Try to work on mine every day, and
Yeah,
we have to do that because we need the allies, and not just that. And everybody that follows me for 5 minutes knows it's not about party or ideology or anything like that. I mean about being just a decent human being. All this liberty stuff flows from that. Be a good human
absolutely.
being, accept people. I say this all the time. I love that you said that. The fact that if we can find some common ground, we can build a country together. We've got to
Hmm.
stop being so hard on both sides. I
Yeah,
say it all the time. I love it. I love it. But what I was going to tell you is that I do find it. Well, I guess I don't find anything odd anymore because, I'm pretty spread out all over the place, and I live in this kind of national bubble with a lot of really intelligent and awesome people and rounded libertarians. And I do feel like the more right leaning libertarians are actually ostracized more. I'm not disagreeing with you. I think it's just a different perspective.
yeah, and I think a lot of that can vary from state to state. In some states there's a lot more of what's been called bottom unity, and in some states there's still a lot of ongoing infighting and this sort of takeover language coming out from some camps of the party. And when I hear that, the first thing that comes to mind is why. I went to Pennsylvania this weekend, and there were they have 47 elected libertarians, the most of any state in the country. They've doubled that number in the last, I think, year and a half. I don't know how somebody can look at that progress, look at their growth in membership, look at their growth in fundraising, the increase in numbers of elected officials, and think something is so terribly wrong here that I need to take this over and change the way we're going on. I see our path as a good one. And would I like us to move a little faster sometimes? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, I think we need to keep working on the things that are successful and not try and take one another out of the equation.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And that's a lot of what we're trying to do here. And I think that the what we're talking about with this whole infighting thing has a lot more voice than it actually has power. I
Yeah,
think the actual power is what we're talking about right now. And I can just tell you that because I believe it from the growth of this brand has
yeah,
been from that unity from like, hey, we've got to work together. We have to stop. We can't do this any longer. And I've shifted away from that because I don't think we are. Now it's just all gas, no brakes. I'm going to
yeah,
keep bringing people like Sasha on who's winning and squash that crap about we're fighting and we're never going to win anything. No, we have people like Sasha on every well, 3 times a week that are winning.
mhm.
They're doing exceptional things in Illinois. I'm sorry about that. I don't know what I was thinking when I said Pennsylvania, and then we talked about it before the program, and then I went and did it again.
You're good.
My bad. But
I'm all over the place. It feels like.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
No, I mean it does feel like that just because it's a conversation, but that's what we want. The
yeah,
conversation needs to be had because I believe our society is missing that. Probably one of the biggest things that our society is missing is just conversation. I feel
yeah,
like these little boxes that we live in um, create this ultimate divide, and we think that we're way more separate than we're not. When in reality, in all actuality, we're way more common. We're way more in common than we think that we are. And man, thank you for doing the things that you've done over
Of
there and
course.
just trailblazing. I keep using that adjective, trailblazing. That man, that's incredible. And you're very young too. But you would you
Yeah.
say that you don't use Twitter, or Instagram because you're a boomer? That's
I'm a little bit of a boomer at heart. Yeah.
all right.
I I like using Facebook for campaign related stuff and a little bit of trolling and Photoshop work. I love doing funny things with Spike's face. Um,
Okay, okay. Now I see. I didn't know
yeah.
that was you.
Oh yeah. Um, we have a lot of fun with it, and I've been close with Spike for quite some time now. I was lucky enough to get to meet him before the nomination because I was on Vermin Supreme's campaign team, and Spike was Vermin's running mate. So we got to have weekly calls together and talk about strategy. And going into the convention, it was really disappointing for us when Vermin didn't get the nomination. But coming back the next day and watching Spike get a majority that quickly and with that good support from so many different wings of the party really, really brought me some hope, because voices like his are the future of the party, I think. That message of principled but compassionate libertarianism.
Oh, that's so key. I mean, we yeah, empathy has to be on the at the top of the. I'm not gonna say the top. I'm gonna say it's at the top because that's how people communicate a lot nowadays. Our emotions and our sensories are engaged when we're with these emotions, compassion and arrogance that we've seen
Yeah,
from a lot of politicians is what drives me up the wall. Um,
absolutely.
but for us as individuals, we must be empathetic and compassionate with each other for this movement and just for humanity. But that's what I
Yeah,
believe, though. Like if we're just being good humans, the liberty stuff comes.
absolutely. One of the things that Spike said that really stuck out to me and influenced the way that I campaign is he said, people won't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And
That's right.
so you have to listen to their issues. You have to listen to what drives them, what makes them tick. And only then can you talk about how your solutions will help them.
Yeah, and like talking to Brian Nichols, and then talking with Larry Sharp, same message, same concept as meeting people where they're at. Let's
Yes.
ask questions first. Let's find instead of just barreling in, uh, guns blazing. Try to understand people, and then we can give them our ideas. But first, they need to think that we're listening. People need to.
Yes.
Everybody wants to be heard. You know.
Absolutely. And so many people feel like they're not being heard by their government, by their individual representatives, by any number of factors. People feel left behind in our current society. And it's important to remind them that you have value just for being you. You are important. You
That's right.
deserve love and respect and freedom first and foremost.
Yep.
And that really tends to resonate with folks.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And that's some of the common ground that I try to find every day with the people that I meet a lot of new people every day. I say it all the time on this program. Um, I have that very advantageous job where I get to meet new people every day, and it's easy to find some common ground when I
Yeah,
begin that relationship with compassion, empathy, and authenticity is a big thing too. People can sniff out a fake pretty quick. I don't think we give
absolutely.
folks enough credit and just be yourself, and be
Yeah.
nice and be genuine. And I start a lot of these political bridges. I can tie politics just about into anything because politics is tied just about everything.
hmm That point about authenticity, I think I really sort of demonstrated that in the last year, because my first race in the November election, I tried to go from a very pragmatic libertarian model. I talked about reforms to the system. I talked about maybe we should freeze property taxes while we figure things out, and people saw right through it. It didn't really play. And then when I
Yeah.
ran this cycle, I ran as an open anarchist. And even if people
Nice.
didn't necessarily agree with that, they respected it.
I
And
love it.
that really was what made the difference. I think when people could tell that I was being genuine about where I'm at and where my end goals are, they were far more receptive to listening what I had to say because they knew what I had to say was what I actually meant.
Yeah.
I've been
Now I
I've been using the phrase the pragmatic approach is radicalism because clearly trying to water down our principles has not been a successful strategy.
No, not at all. That's a terrible message. I think we need a strong message. I think our message naturally is appealing or is naturally appealing to all demographics. So it just
Mm-hmm.
needs to be authentic and genuine. I'm a very big believer in being pragmatic when it comes to layering things and taking issues one level at a time. I believe everything has like complexity to it. And
Yeah,
so I love being pragmatic for that. But there's no reason we can't be pragmatic in getting things done like that, but also be genuine in our messaging like you were.
absolutely.
And I'm glad you said that actually, because when I was talking to a lot of people behind the scenes, that's a lot of what they said about you. And I got that feeling as soon as we started talking as well, is that you were authentic. And I honestly think that's the name of the game. It's a lot of it's a popularity contest. So be you.
Yeah, I think that's what's missing that voters really don't see at the higher levels of government. They don't feel like their state representative is an authentic person or their member of Congress is being authentic towards them. And if we provide an outlet for them where they can see somebody that they truly believe cares, even without policy agreements, we're going to get a base level of support. And the policy
Absolutely.
agreements will come. You know, nobody becomes a libertarian overnight. Um, it takes time, it takes research, it takes a level of discussion back and forth with people who challenge you and push you to understand things and look at things in different ways. And we have to understand that not every libertarian is in the same vein of thought as we are, and not every person who disagrees with us on policy is coming from a place of malice. You know, folks who promote policies that I disagree with strongly, like gun control, for example. I'm glad to sit down with liberals who support stricter gun control and talk about the issues that I have with that from a compassionate perspective. I'll talk about, you know, the Mulford Act that Reagan signed because the Black Panthers were open carrying. I'll talk about how mental health disqualifications from owning prevents rape victims with PTSD from being able to defend themselves. I'll talk about the way that background checks have been utilized by the state to disenfranchise people who are fighting for justice from being able to protect themselves, such as Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And when you sit down and you don't just attack, you say, well, you want to take my guns away. You want to take my freedom. That doesn't make people think. Makes people think you're crazy, but it
Right.
doesn't make people actually deeply think about the issue. So we need to find a better track for messaging.
Hmm. That's awesome. And I love everything about it. I think that more people need to hear exactly what you're saying, because when I say this a lot too, when we look to understand first and to be understood second, that goes a long way in our relationships. That goes a long
Yeah,
way in our character. But in debate, that goes a really long way, because if we sit
absolutely.
down with somebody who's like an adamant, strict gun control person, and you ask, hey, I'm listening. Why do you believe the things that you do? And
Yes.
then after they understand that I actually care, I'm actually listening. I'm not being combative and defensive. Now we can have a conversation, and we need to have the conversation.
Yes, we absolutely do. The yelling platitudes back and forth doesn't get us anywhere. Um, we've tried that for long enough, and I'm really excited to see some of the positive change and direction that we've been getting from the party. I mean, 2020, we picked up our first elected state legislator in 2 decades out in Wyoming, Marshall Burt. And then shortly after that, we got a conversion from a Republican state rep in Maine became a libertarian. These things are incredibly important, and coupled that to the work that's being done on the local level to get municipal and county officials elected, we have a viable path forward. Personally, I'd like to run for county clerk one day, which is a partisan office. This one's a nonpartisan. When I go for county, it'll be a partisan office, but I'll have that experience of a full term as city clerk under my belt so that I can be a credible candidate that shows I've done the work, I know the job, and I'm not just running to run. And I think I should be able to win from that. And once I achieve the first partisan elected official in the county, then I could potentially mount a credible race for something like state representative. Just jumping the levels to run for something that's too far out of reach it's a drain on resources. We don't have that many people in the party that are experienced campaign managers. We don't have that many people in the party that are experienced canvassers and phone bankers. And we don't have that many people that understand how to purchase and then segment voter data to utilize it for effective phone and text banking. Without that ground game, you can't win. Ground beats everything. They say for every 7 doors you knock on, you'll get a vote. For every, I think it was 25-ish phones you call, you'll pick up a vote. And everything else has a very low return on investment. It's that ground game, that getting out in the neighborhoods and speaking directly to voters that wins elections. And to do that, you either need a ton of money to hire a ton of staff or a small enough race that you can do it with just a couple of volunteers.
And that's been the story the whole time. Is it's bottom up, and that's why we're winning. That's why our movement is gaining so much traction and so fast. Is because people like y'all are working from the bottom up, knocking doors. Man, that's awesome. But so something I do want to ask you about, because it's a big deal to me personally. And if you were running where I'm at, this would be a huge obstacle for you. One of the big deals is drug reform.
Yeah.
Is that something that you ran off of?
I wasn't something that I ran off of this race because the city clerk isn't a particularly policy-based position, but it's something that I highlighted in my previous race, and it's really one of the big issues that drives me. And I find that drug reform is similar to gun control. You have to sit down with a person and go through point by point why they feel the way they feel and how you can address the concerns that they have. So when I talk to somebody who's wary of the idea of decriminalizing what they would call hard drugs, I ask them, do you have personal experience? Do you have family members, friends? Have you really been through it and seen it from the side of addiction? And a lot of the time they say, no, but I know what it does to communities. I know what it does to families. And I say, okay, well, I have. My mother was a heroin addict for most of her adult life. My city that I grew up in, Naperville, was right on what the DEA refers to as the heroin highway, Route 88. And there was a ton of addiction that wormed its way into my high school. And I started going to overdose funerals at 14 years old. I have seen it up close and personal. And I know that the solutions don't come from a cell. And I talk about how accessibility of rehabilitation programs lowers rates of addiction. I talk about how accessibility to Narcan or naloxone, the overdose reversal drug, keeps people alive long enough for them to enter rehabilitation. Because the reality is that there's 2 ways that somebody who uses opiates stops using opiates. They die, or they decide they want to stop. It can't be forced on them. It just can't. And then I'll bring in the research from countries like Portugal that have decriminalized personal use quantities about how, yes, there was a 6-month spike in use, but in the years since they've done that, overall rates of usage have declined, overall rates of addiction have declined, and the overdose rate has also declined. And I'll tell them, I want the same thing you want. I want for there to be less people in our community dying from these overdoses. I want there to be less people in our community stuck on the streets, strung out, and struggling, because I care about them just the same way that I can tell you care about them. And if you really want to help them, we can have a conversation about the policies that will. But we have to move past a model that makes admitting you need help admitting to being a criminal.
Yeah. Okay. So a lot of people know this about me, but since we travel going all over the country, right now we're in Illinois. I am a former drug addict, alcoholic. Spent over a decade, 12 to 15 years in it. Been to jail almost double-digit times. I've got over double-digit charges. I've been to rehab, residential rehab for 14 months.
Yeah.
Relapsed a few times. Almost died in the hospital with a very deadly disease, and still fighting through that. But jail is not the answer, and that's a huge problem. And so drug addiction is not a crime, and that's a big deal. But more importantly, and this is something that is very hard to discuss with them, but I've lived the life of what the black market does to addicts. And it's
Yes.
far more detrimental than an open market with some sort of filtration system to understand, so we're getting things that are um, in, checked out by physicians and people that know what they're doing
Yes.
with this stuff. When you're going to the black market, as I did, and I was mostly addicted to liquor and pills.
Right.
Did a lot of meth, did a lot of crack, did all that stuff, all the stuff that comes with addiction, right?
Oh yeah.
But all the black market stuff is not clean. It causes way more overdoses, and it causes you to function at a much less level, causes a higher rate of addiction. Anyway, I don't want to get this. I want you to talk.
You're totally right. One of the things that I like to highlight to sort of drive that point home is I ask people, why do you think celebrities overdose in hotel rooms in cities they don't live in? And the reason is that purity levels vary so much. You buy a bag of dope in New York City, and you've been shooting the dope in Michigan for most of your life. If you do your same shot, that can easily be an overdose. And if you were buying your dope from Walgreens, a point is a point is a point. It's the same purity, it's the same amount, and you're still going to be struggling with that addiction, but you're not going to be having these levels of accidental overdoses, and people are going to be alive long enough to actually seek recovery, seek help, and get to that point.
The main point I would drive home is I spent 14 months in residential rehab, and then I worked for those rehabs and other ministries for the last almost decade.
Wow.
Is what we're doing working right now? It's not.
No.
It's not. The rehabs are filled. I was there. I worked them. I've been in the ministry for a decade. They are maxed out. So what we're doing isn't working.
Yeah. And what we're doing is also more expensive than it would be to do the right thing, the thing that helps. Funding rehab is a lot cheaper than funding jails. And while absolutely our end goal as libertarians may be to get the government out of everything, at the moment, as we transition away from the current war on drugs, I would have no complaints about incrementally shifting funding away from prisons to rehabs before transitioning to a fully privately funded system. There's no reason we can't do it. It would cost less money to the taxpayer, and it would achieve better results. There's a lot lower recidivism from people who are willingly entering residential treatment programs than there are people being involuntarily put in cells.
Yep. And if you decriminalized then our prisons would empty. Our prisons aren't
Yes,
meant for drug addicts, and they're filled with drug addicts. They're meant for pedophiles, rapists, and murderers, and they're walking the streets while our prisons are maxed out with drug addicts. It's absurd.
absolutely. As well as people who suffer from other mental health issues. You know, the largest provider of mental health services in the state of Illinois is the Cook County Jail.
Oh, wow.
That is, when I first learned that, my mind was absolutely blown. It is unconscionable to me that rather than actually focusing on treatment, recovery, and hope for these people, we as a society have moved to simply institutionalize, and not even in institutions designed to help, merely in punitive institutions. It's not a sustainable model, and it's something that we can work together to fix. You know, when I was younger, I did Narcan training for active
Nice.
opiate users and passed kits out.
Nice.
I helped with an organization that was illegally trafficking Narcan into Missouri before they allowed third parties to obtain it without a prescription, because what else are you supposed to do? You know, there are still, I believe, states in this country where you can't legally just carry Narcan. And that is unconscionable to me.
I don't. Yeah, I don't think you can carry Narcan in Mississippi. I'll
Yeah.
check on that. Y'all can check me if you want. I don't mind being wrong, but I'm pretty sure you cannot carry Narcan where I'm at, Mississippi.
Yeah, it's been legal to carry it in Illinois for about a decade now, I want to say. Um,
Wow.
and I can I can think off the top of my head of at least one time that a kit I gave out saved somebody who is now clean and has been clean for 3 or 4 years. These things actively save lives, and there are folks who want to describe it as enabling addiction. No, it's enabling life long enough to get past addiction, and that's how we have to look at it.
Yeah, I mean, and this all ties right back into individual liberty, because if we're looking out for each individual person, then we're looking out for each individual's health in our own. This has to be one of the biggest things. Obviously, your health is your autonomy. I don't want
Yeah,
to be anybody. I don't want to word that improperly. Your health is your autonomy, but as brothers, I this is just how I view it. I am a veteran. Maybe that's it. I've been an athlete my entire life. We're brothers and sisters here.
yeah,
We live in this box with these imaginary lines. A lot of people call them, but at the end of the day, those lines are there, and we live in
yeah,
this box together. We're all brothers and sisters. We need to make sure that we can figure out how to live with each other, how we can conversate with each other. And this is one of the big things to me. I was so glad when you said it was huge for you, because this
yeah,
is a massive deal for me. This is probably, this and police reform are probably my biggest two things. And again, I've got a lot of experience with that for obvious
yeah.
reasons.
Me,
It's-
that's my second other issue as well. But yeah, I think you made a really good point there. You know, a lot of folks tend to view liberty as the freedom to just be left alone, and yeah, yeah, that is something that you can make the choice to do with your individual liberty. But to me, liberty is the freedom to cooperate. It's the freedom to help one another voluntarily. And when we look at it from that model of mutual aid, of communal self-defense organizations, of people working together to make their community better, free of government, that's what I see as liberty in action.
That's awesome. I love it. I have to address this real quick. I'm sorry. Give me one
Of course.
second here. Dennis, Narcan is free, yet insulin shot prices are skyrocketing. That's where the damn problem is. Drug use is a choice. Most cases of diabetes are not. Yet we are punishing people who cannot control the personal health issue. I am a type 1 diabetic and a former drug addict. Hooray. I checked both boxes. Guess what? I'm not trying to be combative here. I'm letting you know. I buy my insulin. I do not have health insurance. I get my own insulin from Walmart for $25 a vial. I am a type 1 diabetic. I can't say that's everywhere in every state, but just
Right.
because one problem is bad and is getting help doesn't mean it should be in lieu of the other issue. Drug
Yes.
addiction and diabetes, it's both deserve the attention. It doesn't; those are conflating two. They're mutually exclusive. I'm sorry, I'm ranting right now.
No, I
And
agree with you 100%. You know, when people make comments like that, it it's intentionally muddying the waters because, like you said, issues are separate. And also, for the record, the Narcan that I distributed was paid for via private funds that were fundraised at great expense. It was at that point around $600 for one of the auto injector kits. And the
man,
organization that I worked with raised thousands upon thousands of dollars to buy cases upon cases of kits. Yes, EMTs carry Narcan, and yes, EMTs will hit you with it, and you'll probably get a bill later. And if you want to call that free, sure, call it free. But if if you're in a severe diabetic crisis, an AMBO is going to roll up and give you insulin as well. You're going to get a bill for it later, and I don't think you'd call that free, would you?
yeah, yeah. And Dennis, I wasn't ranting on you, brother. I love you. I'm just I've seen it a lot, and that's a big deal to me too. We were actually in Clubhouse today, and one of the things that I brought up was like, I don't know how it is in other states, but we don't have any health insurance. My wife pays $11 a month for birth control. We don't have any insurance. I'm a type 1 diabetic. I pay $25 a vial for insulin. I'm sure it's not
Yeah,
that way everywhere, but again, conflating the two is not only is it non-productive, it's counterproductive.
absolutely. We can care about more than one issue at once, and we can want to help more than one kind of person. And also, to the point about drug addiction being a personal choice, the vast majority of people who become addicted to opiates do so through negligent healthcare providers. It,
Yeah, opiates is a
it
big deal.
goes so far beyond some vague personal moral failing. It is something that has been done to folks by big pharma padding their studies and pretending that drugs that were highly addictive were non-addictive. When Vicodin first came out, it was marketed as the new non-addictive opiate and passed out like Tic Tacs. It is not a
Yeah.
moral failing to break your back and get prescribed Vicodin by a doctor who told you it wasn't addictive for months on end until suddenly you have a problem.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, absolutely. So I'll give you another freaking real life, real time example. One of my good friends, while I was in rehab, I was in Missouri, so it's 2 hours south of St. Louis. I
Okay.
went to a rehab called Teen Challenge, and faith based organization, free. I never paid one penny. 14 months I lived
Wow.
in that program. But anyway, there was another former athlete in there, still a good buddy of mine. He may be watching right now. He's a good friend of mine. He's an athlete, played college basketball, and got injured, sports injury,
Yeah.
got put on pills, got addicted to pills. A couple years later, he's addicted to heroin. Then he had tried to rob a house and dropped a safe on his femur and crushed his femur. He almost died. Of course, he went to
Oh,
prison. Yep. There's
yeah.
that. And lots
It's
of stories like that with opiates. Lots of stories. And when I got addicted, I
yeah,
wasn't trying to be it. It wasn't a personal choice. I was just partying like other people do when they're 20 years old. But
absolutely.
couldn't put it down. I
Yeah. No,
realized I love this.
I've gone down the rabbit hole a couple of times myself and been, by the grace of God, been lucky enough to pull myself out of it. But it is far easier than people who haven't lived it recognize to suddenly find yourself in that trap one day. I mean, my mom, she was pushed off a highway overpass bridge, broke her back, both arms, legs, ribs. I mean, anything you could break, she broke. And she had lingering pain for the entire rest of her life. And when she got clean, she struggled with that pain on a daily basis because there just wasn't an effective non opiate pain management regimen available to her that she could afford. And that drove a number of the relapses throughout the years. You know, when we just look at somebody who's struggling and assume it's a result of their own moral failing, we're the ones who are morally failing.
Hey, men and a women. Yes, that's fantastic. I love it. And that doesn't just apply to addiction. And
Yeah.
if we're looking at people thinking that they're morally failing, then we're probably morally failing. I absolutely love that. As we wrap this up, man, I want to end it right there because that was amazing. You are amazing. Is
Thank you.
there any way that, yeah, you're very welcome. You're way better than that guy I saw on your page harping you. I wanted to throat punch that dude. That's probably from a while ago, but when we first agreed to do this, I jumped on your stuff and all of a sudden I saw this troll and it really pissed me off. And so
Yeah.
I will
Yeah.
violate the nap. Sorry. I just will. If you make me mad enough, I will punch you right in the throat. And so
Yeah.
that
You
was
know,
one that made me mad.
the way I look at it is if people are concerned enough about the progress you're making to start trolling you, you're probably doing something right.
That's right. Exactly. Absolutely. Okay. I will. All right. You got to ask him about the seafood. And Nalik is in here. Did you see the great seafood debate between myself and Eskimo Libertarian?
I missed that one.
You missed it. Yeah, it's because you're busy holding political office because you're winning as a libertarian.
Just a little busy.
Yeah, a little busy. And so we have a great seafood debate going on. We actually started the fastest growing caucus in the country today. I'm pretty sure I can say that. If not, I'm saying it anyway, called the Libertarian Party Seafood Caucus. And so how do you like your seafood, if you like seafood at all? Should it be seasoned well? Should it be fresh and open flamed? Or should it be something like the New England's got with their stuff? I'm just messing with you.
You know, it can be contextual. Like last summer, I got the pleasure to go up and hang out with Vermin Supreme up at his little Vermilago, as he likes to call it, which is
Nice.
off a cave in Massachusetts, beautiful part of the country. And we went and we got fresh caught lobster, and it was amazing. And then last week, actually, on the subject of my roommate and how he'll make anything I ask him to, we did a seafood gumbo, and with some snow crab and crawfish and great andouille from the one good meat market in town to sort of round out with some meat. And I love it anyway, as long as someone else does the cooking.
Dude, I got to get on your level. You don't do nothing but eat like a king.
It's
Maybe
pretty
I should
great.
run for office. That's amazing, man. Well, thank you very much. You have been absolutely amazing, dude.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Is there anything we can do to help support you in any way?
Check out my page, Sasha for DeKalb. I'm going to be using that not just for the campaign, because now I'm done campaigning. I've got a little bit of time to sort of focus on the issues. And if you haven't already joined your local party and you're watching this, you haven't already joined the state party, go right now, join them. We need everybody in this fight.
I love it so much, man. You're awesome. Thank you so much. I look forward to talking to you again and finding out where you're at, if that's okay with you.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you again, Sasha. I can't wait to see you again, man.
You too. Thanks.
Wow, what an awesome conversation again, right? I mean, this has been, every single one of them are absolutely amazing. We are winning. I'm not buying that brand. I actually never bought that brand. I'm definitely not buying it no more. We're selling a different one. We are winning. We're winning everywhere. Look at Sasha. Absolutely amazing. That guy's younger than me and he's wiser than me. I love seeing that. That's why he's doing things. That's why this party, this movement is headed in the right direction. And so before I get off on another ramble rant, can I say it like that? Ramble rant? I'll take it on the spot. Before I go off on another ramble rant, here's how you can support me. There's going to be ways to be able to support me here very soon in easier ways. Also, money is not the only way you can support me. Share it, like it, tell your friends about it. Give them the Liberty message. Give them the videos. When I get this thing on Apple, iPod, and Spotify and all that, You don't have to sit here watching a video. You can just listen to these people tell us exactly how awesome they are and exactly how they're winning, how all of us are. I mean, it's incredible. It's absolutely amazing. So I love y'all very much. I will see you Sunday night, same Cajun time, same Cajun channel. I'm out.